This is Tchipakkan, and welcome to the Otherworldly, the Changing Times, Changing Worlds, the Changing Times, Changing Worlds Wednesday night show. And tonight is a continuation. This is a part 2 of just my best healing tips, because I spent so much time on herbalism last time. I didn't quite get to the a lot of the other things that I wanted to get to. So let us go on with that, and because basically we need healing abilities. And there's so many. It's very cool. I have to start out, I think, with the usual disclaimer. I am not a medical professional. You should not take anything I say to be anything more than chatting over your favorite beverage with a friend. I do not prescribe medicines. I do not diagnose. I do not do any of those things that the medical people keep for themselves. I just talk about what I've done. So do not take any of this as medical advice. I want to promote the concept of, I've mentioned CAM, which means complementary and alternative medicines, which we prefer the term complementary to. Alternative medicine was very big in the 70s. We don't want to be telling you to do this instead. We want to say, use it all, whatever is good for you, use it. I personally am on antibiotics at the moment because I got an abscessed tooth. Well, yes, I do all the things that I'm doing, and then I'll take those antibiotics too. And I've got a little timer that tells me to take every 2 hours after taking your antibiotic, then you take your probiotic. The doctors tell me that the antibiotic only stays in your stomach, thus being sucked into your bloodstream for a couple of hours, and then you want to refill your gut with the good bacteria. So do that. If you're going to be doing that, gosh, you need that gut bacteria. Another thing I was not told, when you get to the age when they want to look up your backside and check and make sure your colon is, you get that colon clean as a whistle, you're also emptying out most of your good bacteria. If you combine that with an antibiotic, you're going to need serious probiotics. And I'll get to what to do about that a little bit more. The thing that I do want to stay to having said I'm not doing medical things, I'm going to go back to the first rule of medicine is first do no harm, primum non nocere, which is actually does not go back to Hippocrates. It goes back to Thomas Sinelham, who was a 17th century guy. But it basically says, don't hurt the patient first. Much of the Hippocratic Oath was simply an oath that was developed by the precursors to the guilds, who wanted to make sure that you had to take this oath before whatever your god was, promising you do whatever the doctor said and not do what you wanted to do. So that was a thing. Okay, I'm going to repeat a little bit. I'm going to try very hard not to repeat what I did last week. So you can go on to the online and check that out if you want to hear some of the other things. But nothing works for 100% of the people. That's the same thing just as much with herbs as it is with medicines. Just as much for medicines as it is with any other therapy. It will work for most of the people. That's why we come up with our various ideas. But nothing works for everybody. So if you're feeling something off when you start a remedy, discontinue it. And if that needs fixing, do something to fix it. Because nothing works for everybody. The difference between a poison and a medicine is often just the dose, and sometimes you just have a sensitivity. And sometimes the sensitivities run in families. I have a feeling that sometimes what's running in the family is a higher requirement for a certain nutrient, which sets the entire family up for a liability for having some kind of medical problem that requires more of that nutrient. People need to get whatever nutrients they need. You need whatever dosage is right for you. I'm going to mention, I think I mentioned last week my carry kit. This week, I staged a bunch of visuals. So this is can you see it? Let's see, there we go. That's the arnica. And that is homeopathic. If you've never seen homeopathic, this is very cute. You twist it around, and into the cap, the little tiny pearls, that's what they call them. Aha, they're very tiny, which I have just dropped. They're that big. And so that's it. Use my hand as a scale so that you know how tiny these things are. And you put those in, and I'm not putting it back in there because these are they work on your energy. It's not any medicine in it. What they've done is they've taken something, in this case, arnica, which is an herb, and then they dilute it and they percuss it, and they take a little tiny bit of it and then they dilute it again. And I believe that the usual system is that they take 10% out, and then they add another 10% of pure water, percuss it, and the next day they take it out and put 10%. And so you will see on the remedies, they will tell you how many times it's been diluted. So a 30 has been diluted a lot more than one that has a 6 on it. If you get a bee sting, you're going to get something called apis, which basically is bee venom, but it has been diluted 26 or 30 or something times. If you take that, I got stung by a white-faced hornet once, and my leg swelled up. So there was no knee, there was no ankle. It was just a column, but this big down from my thigh. So I grabbed my apis, and it went back to looking like a leg. I was excited. And then I decided to relax with a cup of tea. So I took some pepper leaves and put them in hot water. And I'd forgotten that many homeopathics are what they call antidoted. That's counteracted by two very common things: peppermint and coffee. So it swelled up again because the venom was still in my leg, and it wasn't going to work a second time. So I had to wait the usual amount of time for the swelling to go down, which is very embarrassing because I knew that. But you can get homeopathy for all kinds of different things. You can order it online if you haven't got it at your local health food store. I have a kit that I keep on hand for the general things. The arnica's for bumps and bruises, which is why I carry it around with me. So you fall down, you bump yourself, you say that's going to bruise. Then it's okay, take the arnica, and then it doesn't bruise. That's very cool. And they have them for apis is for the bug bites. Trying to remember, there's one for when you're feeling the first symptoms of the cold. You can short circuit the cold. But do remember to avoid your coffee and your peppermint while you're doing that. In a similar vein, another thing I carry all the time is rescue remedy. Can we see that without having the glare on it? There we go. Bach's rescue remedy. Bach probably worked at about the same time as Hahnemann was coming up with homeopathy, and he came up with, I think it is 26 different formulas, each of which helps the patient's mood, and the mood affects how your health is. And so your health problems will sometimes arise from the fact that your mood is not good. And they have things. The one I remember is beech, because it reminds me, beech kind of sounds like bitch, and there's if you're cranky. And there's another one that is maybe I won't squint quite so much. You take these and they kind of help with various problems. Like if you take on too much, if you're feeling like you've done too much, if you're feeling like you're always afraid, if you're feeling like that you have no self-worth, each of these disturbing things, and they are made the same way. You take just a tiny amount in a certain amount of water. You know, I'm sure when they make it commercially, it's probably gallons. But if you're making something like that at home, and you can, then I use a jar with 10 ounces of water. And the next day you take out 1 ounce, put it in another clean jar, put in 9 ounces of pure water, shake it, and then that shaking it energizes it and disperses the energy through it. And as my husband worked out, he said, these things are 0 parts per billion. There's nothing in there. It's water. Why is it doing anything? I don't know, but it does. You can see the rescue remedy is for when you're in shock. And we have given this to our livestock, our sick ducks, chickens, pigs, and things. And they recover more quickly. So you can't put that down to as a placebo effect. Oh yes, and there's another one. This is, my kids will prefer this form for. If you don't want to drink a glass of water with a few drops of the rescue remedy in. So you can see it's got a little dropper, and you put that much in a glass of water and you drink that. Now, not that a glass of water doesn't often calm you down, but if you've just had an injury, if you've just had a big fright, if you're having surgery, if you had a lot of things, it'll just calm you down. Considered anti-anxiety, but it just goes straight to your energy, and I suppose it's like having a good friend who knows how to ground and center somebody else. Another thing that I have, just to run through my things to show that here's a bottle of, you can see the cloves in there, garlic cloves, and it's a jar of 4 thieves vinegar, which we had last week. Similar to the homeopathic stuff, this is neutralizes if you have an allergy to the molds, yeast, and dust. You can, and here's one for animal dander. We keep this around for people who come to visit us who are allergic to our cats. So you give them a few drops of that, same deal, just a few drops, give it a cup of water, and the allergies don't work. When my kids had allergies, there was a book by a doctor called Doris Raff. There was a big brouhaha about whether or not there is a component to allergies that causes behavioral problems. Many parents, many teachers are perfectly willing to say, yeah, when the kids get hopped up on sugar, or whether it's the sugar or whether it's the artificial colors in it, there are the kids are a little bit wilder and crazier. So I actually suggested to our grammar school principal, I said, well, you still do those teacher education workshop days, right? And she said, yeah. And I said, well, you get to pick when they are? She said, yeah, well, you put it in with the school district. I was like, well, why don't you put in for the day after Halloween and the day after Easter? And she just got this look on her face, because teachers know that you get 30 kids who have had a lot more sugar, a lot more candy than usual, and it's going to be very hard to control the class. Parents will know whether their kid is sensitive to it. Other kids are sensitive to things like laundry detergents. I have had friends who directed their kids in the grocery store. You go around, you wait for me at the end of the next aisle, because if they walk down the laundry aisle, their kid would be hyper, and you'd get that kind of out of control child you see in grocery stores every so often. Doctors will tell you, no, that is impossible. A allergic reaction is a reaction that you get from it either causes you to stop breathing or you get a rash. Those are the only two things that are called allergic reactions. Anything else is a sensitivity. What's the difference? A allergic reaction, you get a I'm blocking the word, if anybody knows it. Histamine response. But as some gentleman a doctor in England said, it's an unusual reaction to a normal antagonist. But a sensitivity is a totally normal reaction to an unusual antagonist. So if your kid responds to the smell of laundry soap by turning into a little animal, then obviously that is a sensitivity, not an allergy. So you don't tell your doctor, my kid has an allergy. You say, my kid is having this reaction in the presence of this stimulus, and what do we do? And so the nice thing about Doris Rapp's book and treatment, which we found an allergist who did it, is essentially as an allergy treatment, she had these hyper diluted things, and she would do the usual allergy scratch tests on the kids, and she would see what that was going to kind of reaction was going to do, and then she'd be able to find whether you needed a 6 times dilution, or whether you needed a 20 times dilution, or whether you needed a 300 times, and she'd find the one that worked for you. When she moved to another state, we started making some of those ourselves, and it certainly wasn't as convenient, but at least we still had it available. So look at the end of this. I'm not going to put them in the chat until the end of the show, because that way everybody who is here, actually, I'm going to put the list in now, and then you can put the, and I'll do it at the end again, so that anybody who might have to leave early can still see it. Okay, is that working? Okay, I thought I'd copied that. Yes, chemicals. So that is a bunch of books that I am recommending, and we'll continue with the show and tell. I mentioned the acupressure book. This is the on that list, and so you can use the list to look them up. This is the one for acupressure. Here is my absolute favorite for crystals, which I am not going into a lot because we got Star Wolf and he's already done 3 or 4 crystal shows for us. And I will have him back doing more because that's his thing and he does it so well. This is my Reiki book that I decided to share because this was the one that was the outlaw Reiki. Diane Stein decided in the 80s or maybe early 90s that she was going to share the Reiki symbols with the world, which had been absolutely secret. Many people who did it, you would memorize the symbols when you were being taught, and then you had to, you'd practice them until you had them in there, and then they would formally burn all of the, and she actually put them there so people could learn them. And now there are dozens and dozens and dozens of Reiki books. You still need to go to Reiki master to get the attunement, but it is, she broke through the, this is absolutely secret and part, which I think is an important thing. This is the, I mentioned last week, the Peterson's guides. They are not always for the same area. So get the guide for your area. And if you, and the nice thing about it is they have this, can you see that? Nice, a little bit more light. Gotta be, yes, put it on. No, it's too much glare. Oh well. It's got the diagrams, but then in the middle, it's got photographs of the actual plants. So it's got both of those things. It makes it a lot easier to find and identify plants that you might not recognize. Remembering, I mentioned last week, plants tend to appear where they feel needed. If you see a plant that you have never seen before, find out what it is, identify it, and see if it is something that has just come to you because somebody in your family needs it. We suddenly got a bunch of, I forget what it was, growing, I think it was one of the Artemisias in our family, and we said, what is this for? And it said, well, it's for indigestion, insomnia, depression, and anxiety. It's like, oh yeah, okay, we're all going to be taking that one. Herbs love to help people, and they will show up so that you can ingest them, which is awfully nice of them. This is one of my favorite books. I happen to be very fond of a book that you can, the spiral bound, so that you can, will tell you, and this is typical. I didn't know, what did I opened that up to? That's time. And to say, all these things are things that time does. And when you are starting out with herbs, if you are just a beginner, start with simples, use them one at a time. But if you are not, you can start combining them. And as with anything else, you combine them, you sometimes don't get both effects at once, you get other effects as well. So, and here's the other one. These are my 2 favorite herb books, other than the Magic and Medicine of Plants, which Bill showed for us last week. So that is my, that's my show and tell. Oh, and with this one other thing, this is, it's Crown Royal, is it called? Chambord liqueur. This is blackberry liqueur. I didn't mention last week that many plants will keep a different level. If you're trying to treat a child with diarrhea, you can give them blackberry leaf tea. But if you're dealing with serious diarrhea from an adult, you will go with the with the roots, because they store a lot more in the roots than they do in the leaves. And that's how you start working on your dosing, which of course I am not recommending officially in any capacity. But the Chambord, not Chambord, the Crown Royal, yes, it is Chambord. Chambord is a black liqueur which people drink because it is delicious, but it does have the same medicinal property of stopping you up. So if you have a bunch of this because it tastes so good, you might find that you're going to need a little something to loosen you up later. So, but that was about it for my, add acupressure. Okay, I will add that one too. Yes, Diane Stein was one of the rogue Reiki masters who said this can't be something that that only a few people know. This has to be available to everybody, because it's the same reason I like to have a lot of healing classes for changing times, changing worlds. In the modern world, where if you haven't got the proper insurance, and even if you do, sometimes you can't afford medical care, it's good first of all, it's good to have something that you can use then and there, and it's good to have something that isn't going to cost you a lot of money. But that's my show and tell. So let me get back to my list of things that I want to try and get to. So your body, your basic thing, your body wants to heal. Your body heals. That's what it's built for. It's built to reproduce itself, which takes the whole body system. And then I suppose the cells are also to do that. But it needs the nutrients, or the building block, the physical building blocks, which includes hydration. For goodness sakes, do include hydration. You have water, so you need your nutrition, and then you need energy, and that's where Reiki and the various energy things come in, because every cell needs Reiki. And so when you put the energy in, if you have enough energy, if you know how to direct the energy, you can, I don't know how, suck the building blocks in. You can create the physical. Somehow there's this, that's magic. It is that when you convert energy to matter and matter to energy, that's magic. And so, but yeah, you need the nutrition. I think that nutrition is something we all need to pay a little bit more attention to. Hippocrates did apparently say, let your food be your medicine and your medicine be your food. We are now paying more attention to interactions between drugs and herbs and food. For instance, a lot of people are aware, they're probably warned by their doctors, that grapefruit juice will enhance the effect of many medications like blood pressure, statins, some rejection drugs. No, we don't want to do that. Anti-anxiety, corticosteroids, some antihistamines. And if this is just something that you drink so if you had the same glass every day, it would be one thing. But if you have it occasionally when you happen to bring it home from the store, it's going to throw off how well the medicine is taken up in your system. And so you're going to get a higher dose on the days that you take the grapefruit juice, which is why doctors will just say, look, just for control, no grapefruit juice while you're on this drug. So because not having the dose be wrong is a good thing. But the other things, almost every medication out there, if you get the Merck manual, it will tell you just about every medicine is an antagonist or a blocker for some nutrient or other, or it requires a lot of nutrient, so it will process it. For instance, processing tobacco. The amount of nicotine you get in one cigarette burns up approximately 25, 30 milligrams of vitamin C out of your body. So if you are a smoker and you can't quit, which is entirely probable, take at least 25 milligrams extra vitamin C for every cigarette you smoke. Then that will reduce the amount of harm it's doing, because anything that the cigarette burns out, you won't have for fighting off infections and things. So yeah, nutrients, the vitamins, they're wonderful things, and your body needs them. And if your body is responding to something, this is important, be aware of this. In food, various nutrients are balanced pretty well. If you take your B12 or your B6 or your B whatever, and you take a bunch of it, because your body is expecting it to be in combination with other B vitamins in your food, it will increase the amount of those Bs. It'll burn them out, because it's drawing on them in order to use up to process the B that you're taking in high doses. So if you're taking a simple B, unless you know it's something that your body needs particularly, for instance, if you're taking a medication that burns through B6 or whatever. So that's where, the minute you get a prescription, go to your naturopath, or go to your Merck manual, find out what nutrients that is burning or blocking. It might be blocking, in which case you want to take it at a different time of day as you're taking your medication. That works too. But I seem to remember, I should have looked that up, you shouldn't be taking your vitamins E and your vitamin C at the same time, because they don't make each other work as well. So anyway, but basically you should look these things up, because so if you're taking a lot of a vitamin B, you can develop a nutritional deficiency in the other B vitamins, because you've created an artificial lack of those vitamins by taking so much of the first one. As people who are against high dose vitamins will tell you, if they are a water soluble vitamin like the B's and C's, what you're getting is expensive piss. And that is absolutely true. Thank goodness, most water soluble vitamins, your body takes what it needs and then the rest go away. So that's why you want to maintain that balance. If it is a fat soluble vitamin like the D's and E's, then it can stay in your liver. This could be bad, but it may be very good. After all, you used to get that out of the occasional fish oils and stuff that you'd eat, or from getting it from the sun. And that you needed to get through the winter, especially if you're European, Northern European, you needed to hold it in your liver over the whole winter months. So that's why you store it. The amount you have to take in order to become toxic is huge, but God bless humans, we sometimes do that. There's just this thing in human mind that says if a little is good, more is better. Please do your research, look it up, for goodness sakes, and take the recommended amounts. Anyway, but nutrients is important, and you need to look at what your nutrient needs are. Each individual is going to have greater needs than others. My husband, for example, had to take 400 units of vitamin E every day, or he'd get bleeding hemorrhoids. I don't need that. He didn't need that. But if you do, that's really important. So you got to figure these things out and keep track of them. Other things that so other than vitamins, vitamins were very big in the 50s, and they were looking into them for Psychological uses. That went away when they discovered the joys of modern pharmaceuticals and they stopped looking. And I really think they ought to go back to that, because it probably goes to, if you're burning through it because of your personal metabolism, then you need to get whatever the vitamin is that you've burned through faster. I really like, there was a Dr. Candace Pert, who was known as the mother of psychoneuroimmunology, and she talked about how emotions, it's a really sick cycle that when you're feeling in strong emotions, they affect your endocrine system, and that affects how you feel, and it creates this horrible cycle. So that if you feel bad, then it's going to change the way your hormones are, and then the hormones are going to make you feel bad. It's like, oh, come on. And other research has discovered that laughing, even fake laughing, all right, everybody join me. Come on, can't laugh. Even if it's fake, it helps. It reduces the pain hormones in your body. Come on. There we go. Okay, yes. And usually it helps when other people are laughing around you. Thank you. Good. Okay, laughing helps. Theoretically, if you laugh, gosh, it was back in the 70s, I think Norman Cousins did a book about how he cured his cancer by laughing. He watched, God help me, Three Stooges in his hospital bed. Now, that wouldn't have made me laugh, but it apparently that's what made him. So that will boost your health. Try and laugh every day. If you don't laugh, if you do laugh, it'll probably help your health. But the people in your house will think you're alone. So you're going to have to, decide which is more important. So when you have, so we talked a little bit last week about the joys of honey for diaper rash and such. I want to mention kombucha and kefir and yogurt, the other things that are probiotic. If you have antibiotics, and I think antibiotics are a great thing, but we have to make sure we are not killing our gut microbiome. You need those. You don't want to just kill everything, because then you will not be able to, your body won't make what it needs to. Other things about food, kefir is a lovely drink, but try and make it yourself. Get a something that you can put, they have it, milk kefir, and if you can't have milk, Northern Europeans and a few Africans can digest milk after they are weaned. Most of the Asians, most of the Africans, most of the Native Americans can't digest milk, so they don't have the advantages that we have of being able to suck down moo juice. But so if you can't, there's water kefir, but like the kombucha, which is made with tea and a mother. Oh, I wish I had that to show you. It grows this kind of a, what is it? Not a slime mold. They call it a mother, and you make a bunch of tea, like half a gallon or a gallon of tea, and you put this mother in it, and it grows. And if you don't keep dividing it and giving some to your friends, then it will like make layers and layers and layers. But it puts certain bacteria into the tea, and it's really good for you. And all these old people in Russia, and there's lots of places where kombucha is looked at as a miracle drink. You may or may not like it. I happen to be very fond of it. My kids think it's disgusting. So you got to figure out whether you like it or not. Then foods like herbs have effects that they have. Bananas and peanuts make you more attractive to bugs, to mosquitoes and black flies and stuff. So, and ticks especially. So if you do not wish to have Lyme disease, if you do not wish to eat no red meat for the rest of your life, if the Lone Star tick has reached your area, then you can do as I do, and we do not eat bananas and peanuts during tick season. You know, once it's spring, and I figure if between the last frost and first frost, it's like, no, I'm not. I can live without the bananas. I don't need to be more attractive to the ticks. I'm going to briefly mention the things that you probably can't escape, like the endocrine disruptors, like Roundup, glyphosate, which is on almost all of the, something like 90% or more of the wheat that is produced in the United States has Roundup sprayed on it 3 days before harvest, because then it becomes, according to them, perfectly safe. When I read the Roundup bottle and said, why, they said you can be sprayed on food crops up to 3 days before harvest. Why would you put something that is a plant killer on a food crop? Well, what it does is it makes the stalk of the wheat weaker, so that it's a lot easier for the mechanical harvesters to harvest them.
And it wilts the leaves.
Yeah, and so it's but in my personal experience, which is of course not statistically significant, but in my personal experience, we put it on some poison ivy along the side of the road when we were having friends that were going to be parking along the side of the road. 100 yards away was where our barn was, where we had little baby rabbits. What I had at that time was a pregnant rabbit who gave birth about 6 weeks later to babies that had no or deformed eyes. All of the baby kits in that litter were deformed, and I would say hit the eyes because that was probably what was being formed in utero at the time. That was the only time that happened, and that was sprayed quite a distance away from it, but it apparently
it goes everywhere.
Airborne.
Just remember, this is brought to you by those wonderful folks who brought us Agent Orange.
Yeah. Anyway, so basically that was I'm just going to say that is the reason in my family I try to do as much of our baking as possible, because I can buy organically raised flour.
Roundup.
It may not be directly, as most of these things that are bad for us, you can't say, well, if you do this, it's going to cause that. No, it's one of many things that will reduce your body's ability to fight off all the other. And it's one more insult. And the last thing we do, it's like if you go like this.
As a farmer,
I'm not hitting myself very hard. But if you do it often enough, it's going to have a cumulative effect. And that's what's going on. You get a little bit of outgassing from your house. You get a little bit of stuff in your food. You're a little bit of that. We get your water has just a little bit of all of the cancer remedies that went into the food system. Eat as clean food as you can get, because it reduces the total weight of what it is. So that's your food. Now, to finish up,
may I make a comment? As a farmer who tries to be ethically responsible, Roundup is a known carcinogen. Period.
Yep.
It infiltrates the ground and the groundwater, so that if you put it on your field at the top of the hill and it soaks down 300 feet below, it can contaminate your neighbor's well. We found that we do not use it. People use it for various things, and we never use Roundup here. We deal with it, but we deal with the pests, the weeds and things by either manually doing it, or the organic solution is to get industrial strength vinegar, which you may need to apply for a permit, and then you hand spray it on the god-awful things in your field, such as thistles that go bananas or whatever, and the organic vinegar, the next rainfall dilutes it and removes it from your dirt, so that, yes, if you spray it directly on the plants or pour a tiny amount on the roots of something really obnoxious, yeah, you'll kill a 2-3 foot patch of dirt. And after the next substantial rain, it's clean and doesn't have the vinegar, and new stuff can grow, but you've already killed the bad stuff. That's something we have done. End of story.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much. It's important. I just figured as long as I was talking about food and health, I had to mention that. But let's go on to something that's good for you in your food.
We use that for food.
So, yeah, you want to have your food, the best food you can get. And then once you're doing it, you can bless your food. You can take your sigil work. You can take your rune work. You can do whatever you want. My daughter came downstairs once and said, I am tired. I have no energy. I said, well, what you need is Uru's energy. And she was already put on a pendant with an Uru's rune on it. And she popped it in her mouth and she, oh, it won't go down. No. So what you do then is you make yourself a sandwich, and you write on the sandwich, in mustard on your bologna, or draw it in your peanut butter or whatever. And you put Urus in that, and if you energy use, to put the Urus, the energy, or whatever rune you're doing, whatever sigil you're doing, and you ingest it that way. Just blessing your food. This is where you get the typical saying, grace before meals. Of course, the most heartfelt grace I ever gave was, I had one of those days where everything I cooked, it just went wrong. We call it a bad potato day. And we said, dear goddess, please forgive us for what we have done to these, your gifts. But usually if you bless your food, if you put a positive energy into your food before you serve it, it's good. This is when in Shinto, when the food is brought from the cooking area, they put it on the altar. The ancestors take what they want. It's an offering energetically, and then they bless it. And therefore you've got blessing. They do the same thing in Hindu festivals. People will bring food of various sorts. It will go on the altar. The gods will bless it. And then the priests give it to someone else. You want to know how to bless your food. We have discovered, we had the altar in the kitchen altar. The cats would always get up and go into the chalice and drink the blessed water. So we started blessing the cats' water, and then they were perfectly willing to drink out of their own bowl. Pretend this is your chalice.
We
take
do.
Let me finish this. You take the energy in, ground center, pull your energy in, and then expel it with your breath into the water. You say, blessed be thou, creature of water. This is actually tea, but what the heck. Do that 3 times, and you then have charged water. Yes, you were going to say.
I was going to say that, well, we do produce livestock. We raise lambs, and many of them go off to market because let's face it, you do not need 29 rams to fertilize 20 ewes. No. I mean, you've got to do something, and if you have to do that. So some things are going to go off to slaughter if you can't sell them otherwise. And we try to manage and maintain how do we direct the energy, and how do we bless those animals? How do we're going to put them on the trailer tomorrow morning. What do we do? How do we, we've made selections based on modern genetics and whatever. And these are the ones that we have to give them meaning for their lives. We have to be thankful. We have to bless them because they are bringing money, quite frankly, to help us pay the freaking mortgage.
Okay, so I've got to finish up. Yeah.
I need to take a step back a moment. What are ooders?
Pardon?
It's a
You
rune.
talked about ooders?
I'm sorry. I keep forgetting that it is not. Urus is the rune for healing and for energy.
Okay.
Yes.
My apologies. I keep forgetting that not everybody knows
I'm not
runes.
versed in those yet. No.
No,
Okay,
I recognized it,
you,
but yeah.
And you don't need to, but I thank you for pointing that out to me. Okay, it is important to. I just noticed how once again I'm going longer than I really wanted to go. So we've gone through food, we've gone through homeopathy. I want to talk energy healing, and energy healing is any of the time. Humans have energy. There's an energy field. We have things that Western science usually is not paying a lot of attention to. We have auras, which is the energy around us. We have the chi, ki, mana, prana that we can direct, often with our hands. If you have various tools like wands, you can direct them. You can use them in conjunction with crystals. We have meridians on our bodies, which are it's like your veins putting your blood through you. The meridians have your body going through you. We have the chakras, which are centers that each seem to spin with a different type of part of your energy that is that you're using. So we have energy. I remember in the 70s, they were getting all excited about Kirlian photography because they were able to first pick up some images, something that Western science can recognize from these. From that, we started getting into energy healing. In the 70s, there was therapeutic touch. There was what other kinds of energy? Okay, we can go back to the 19th century. There was magnetism and mesmerism, which had a great deal of the same thing. They were starting to get into relaxation, guided imagery. Now, when you mentioned the meridians and how things move around, how the energy moves around in your body, you can get blockages. If you get your energy blockage, it can back up. Just as you can have too little energy, you can have too much energy. And if you have a blockage, you'll have too little downstream and too much upstream, which is where you get into acupressure or acupuncture, where the small gold needles that they use in the acupuncture, or whether the pressure that you use in acupressure works. And acupressure, I did mention that in the first round, so I'm not going to get deeply into that this time. So go back and watch the other one. But it also has to do with it comes up again in tapping, and I definitely do not wish to miss the tapping, because as opposed to an acupressure where you're pinching a part of your body where they're to activate a small point on your meridian, in tapping you will just tap it like this. And the first tapping modality that I remember learning was EFT. I've got the link, I'll post it at the end so that people can get it. And the EFT stands for Emotional Freedom Technique. It was developed by Donald Craig, who was trying to help people with emotional problems. And he heard about meridians, and he said, well, if we tap, and his general technique is to tap up on the head, over the eyes, the corner of the eyes, under them, it's underneath your nose, under your chin, and then collarbones and various points. As I said, this is a technique that I have a link right to YouTube that'll show you how to do it. Try it. For the amount of time it takes, you might as well give it a shot. You can get some really amazing effects from it. And while you're doing these tapping, which is activating these particular points on your body, in your energy body, his technique was to say, even though I have this problem, even though I'm afraid of water, even though I have a fear of dogs, even though I can't stand my mother-in-law, I completely love and accept myself. And you say this as you tap. And before you are doing before you do this, you say, how intense is this feeling that I don't want to have anymore? 1 to 10. And then afterwards you say, oh, if it was an 8, now it's a 5. Okay, do another round of tapping. I completely love and accept myself. Oh, that's a 3. It's like, I did that with, I discovered I am a great grudge keeper. I was still angry at some girl who was mean to me in high school. So I tapped. I realized I'd been carrying this around for 50 years. Talk about a waste of energy. I tapped and suddenly I didn't care. I mean, it would be very nice to say intellectually, I didn't care because she's not worth wasting energy on. But that didn't work. But I did this tapping, and somehow that made it just I guess it broke through the whatever blockage it was having me hold on to it. Then the wonderful technique, and then he discovered as he did that it also worked for physical problems. Serge King liked how quick and easy that was, but he wanted it to be even quicker and easier. And so he did Dynamind, which is very similar, except that he uses the Huna technique of Pono, which is making the energy flow in your body by directing your attention from one. Sometimes you can direct your attention. You want to get your energy flowing. In Pono, you will concentrate on your right shoulder, your left toe, and back and forth, and that will get your energy going. And then you do whatever it is you're going to be doing with your energy. So what he did was he combined tapping, but he just got it down to, let's tap this point, the one that's a very important acupressure point, right at the point where your the crease ends when you fold your thumb up against your up against the rest of your hand, and you tap that point on one hand side, that on the other side, in your sternum, and then on your 5th cervical vertebra, the one that sticks out, the vertebra that sticks out in the back of your neck. Now that takes care of front, back, and both sides. So what you do is you start out by saying, I have a headache, but that can change. This is where affirmations, another wonderful book is Louise Hay's. I didn't put her book in there. She's got a little blue book. years of working with people, she figured out that certain psychological problems are associated with certain physical problems. And if you can release those, and she used a lot of affirmations for that. Wonderful book. But the problem with affirmations is sometimes you will say, I haven't got a headache. And your body will say, oh, yes, I do. What are you, nuts? So if you say, I have a headache, but that can change, your subconscious is not going to set up that block, because your subconscious knows that, yes, you have a headache right now. And no, you haven't always had a headache. And no, it doesn't expect the headache to last forever. You say, I have a headache, but that can change. Then you are back to, and then you give the instruction to the universe. I want that headache to go away right now. And as with Donald Craig's EFT, you can start out by saying, how intense is this headache on a scale of 1 to 10? And so what you do is you say, I have a headache, but that can change. I want the headache to go away right now. Do the tapping. Then you do, he says, put your hands in this position. He picked that position because he didn't know of any other technique that was using that particular hand formation. So he just wanted to pick one that hadn't been used. I want you to go right now. And then you breathe in, feeling the energy through the top of your head and out through your feet. In through your head, out through your feet. Then you do the reassessment. Scale of 1 to 10, how's it doing? Do another round. See, get it down to that it's gone away, or it's low enough you don't care anymore. You can get rid of a lot of different kinds of pain in less than a minute this way. And a lot of very, very serious things. There was a lady who was paraplegic. She had a spinal injury. He did this with her, and she was able to get up and walk around, but then she went back to the wheelchair. She was not comfortable with getting a healing like that because she was the head of the paraplegic rights group in her state. Oh. And she felt much like she had a better purpose in life. She would rather be paraplegic and be able to help these people than to not be paraplegic. But once you get into healing like this, you can get some really amazing effects. And I have found EFT and Dynamind to be very good, especially for immediate symptomatic relief, but also things that go further. So you can find, no, I didn't put that on the list. I will add it. Dynamind's book is Healing for the Millions by Serge King. Let's just say, is there continuing with energy healing? The first type of energy healing is prayer. I see that I'm running late. I'm going to continue not turning the show off until I've at least gotten to the list, into my list of things I wanted to get to tonight. Don't need to go into number 3. The first type of energy healing is prayer, laying on of hands. When people express intent, especially when they invoke the help of other spiritual beings. Many people subconsciously, consciously, whatever, just feel that other energy beings have, whether God, creator, ancestors, have more energy than you do. If you ask for their help, you can get more help. I personally feel if you have any type of way that you can send energy and healing, whether it's prayer or RunValdr or whatever, that people put a request. I'm not send happy feelings. My mother's going to the hospital. I'm going into surgery on this date. The more you do it, the more it's going through you, the more of a channel you become, the better you get at it. and as I said, in the 70s, therapeutic touch was very big with the nurses. Healing touch was another thing they called it. Biofeedback was where I started my energy work, which I mostly got out of science fiction books. Self-hypnosis. Oh my gosh, I remember back in the 70s that was using subliminal tapes, which has really messed up the music that they put on you on hold music for, because it sounds so much like the subliminal tapes that they put those things in. There was silver mind control. There was quantum healing. There's the Chinese Qigong, Shiatsu. There's the Ayurvedic pranic healing. Aikido is the Japanese healing. The Huna is the Hawaiian Polynesian healing. Chinese traditional medicine has a lot of healings. I have gone off and have, I think the two biggest ones that I use are Reiki and RunValdr. Reiki, which I've already mentioned tonight, is a system developed in the 20th century by a Japanese man, Mikao Yusuke, who is who really made a lot of help with the 1923 Tokyo, was it Kyoto? Earthquake. He healed a lot of people. He, during the World War II, a Hawaiian lady went to Japan, or just before World War II, a Hawaiian lady had her cancer healed by it, and then she started teaching in Hawaii, but she wrapped it up in a little Christian mythology so that it would be more acceptable to the Americans that she was doing with. Started sharing it in the 60s, but very slowly. Usui had discovered in his temple practice that people, healing does not tend to take if the person felt it was free, if they hadn't given something back for it. So somehow along the way, this Hawaiian lady decided that it was that you had to pay for your training in order for it to take. And so when I was learning it in the 80s, if you wanted to take Reiki 1, it was $300. If you wanted to take Reiki 2, it was $1,000. If you wanted to take the Master Reiki, it was $10,000. Now, how the person cannot accept a healing without giving something for it turned into you cannot learn to heal without giving something for it is a little bit confusing to me, which is where Diane Stein came in, and she said, no, we need to be able to heal people. Let's not put this as something only rich people can do. And it was horrifying for the other Reiki practitioners. Oh my God, she's letting the secrets out. Now you can go to festivals and New Age things, and you see, you can get sculptures with the Reiki symbols on them. The Reiki symbols still need to be activated in order to use them to heal. But it has put healing, energy healing, into the hands of a lot of people. They use it in hospitals. Hospitals will often accept Reiki healing. Our hospital will say, yes, it's a wonderful thing. It gives we will offer Reiki classes to the families of our patients, so that they can feel that they're doing something for the patient. Feel they can do something? When you put your hands on the patient and the unbearable pain goes away like it doesn't go away without morphine, that's not doing something. And the side effect is that the tumor goes down. Come on, guys. And it works on everybody else in the family, and everybody who has a cancer patient in the family probably needs some healing too. I was so irritated by the way they were couching it in modern attitude. But it's Reiki is available. It is accepted. It's a wonderful technique. RunValdr, very briefly, was created. Gee, what a surprise, especially during the secretive period. The symbols changed a little bit as it spread. More and more people developed different kinds of Reiki. They learned to do different things with it. Putting up crystal grids with the Reiki. You can do, the crystals will work with the Reiki energy and do more things. One of the coolest things about Reiki is that you can do distance healing. It's really great. So, but with all of these different varieties of healing, there are now hundreds, if not just 100, there are probably hundreds of different varieties of Reiki, and many Reiki practitioners learn the different systems so they can learn all of the cool things that you can do with Reiki. One practitioner, Rod Cox, and we have him on one of our shows, was a rune master and a druid, and he thought it was a little odd to be using runes to do healing with a Japanese system. So he did what any shamanic druid would do. He went to talk to Odin and got him to give him some symbols to use instead of the Reiki symbols, and developed RunValdr, which is very similar in some ways to Reiki, and it's really very strongly associated with the runes because the runes are we've been using runes to heal for 2,000 years. So yeah, the runes are really cool. And it does distance healing. It does direct healing. It uses the runes for healing. It's just a wonderful thing. I use it a lot. I personally prefer it in many ways, simply because with Reiki, you put your hands just over the patient or on the patient. The energy comes from the universe into you. This is the benefit of using Reiki. It's taking the ki from the universe, having it run through you and into the patient. So you're not taking the energy from yourself and putting it into the patient, leaving you drained. RunValdr is taking the rune energies from the universe and putting them into the patient, or whatever work. The difference with RunValdr is it's not simply a healing system. You can use it for anything. When the runes were developed, they were developed to smite your enemies. So I tend to use it because I'm a healer. I use runes for healing. But while people, when they're teaching Reiki, can say this is safe, while teaching RunValdr, you can't say this is safe. When I'm teaching RunValdr, I say it's like giving chainsaws to children. It's a powerful thing, and you can hurt people with RunValdr, but why would you want to? So yes, so there is that. But yes, anybody can heal. I was at a fair once, started talking with a couple who was there, and he was there, and he had an arm that didn't move, and that was why he was disabled. And so I said to the lady, I said, put your hand on one of his shoulders and put your hand on his wrist. Now picture the energy flowing from one hand to the other hand up his arm, and then have this. And the guy's like, I can feel that. And then he looked down and he said, I moved my fingers. I moved my fingers. And I said to him, yes, you did that, and to his wife, and you helped. Because he could have otherwise gone home and said, I met this really cool woman. She could do this healing on me, and that was great. No, it is important to know that the healing is in you. It's in everyone. We are humans. We have this ability. Until we're dead, we have this in us. It's natural. And we can, if we can make ourselves aware of it, we can then learn to direct it, and we can take it in and share it around so that we can heal with it. I have shown people how to, it's like, if they know nothing about healing or energy or whatever. It's like, okay, my arm is still aching inside its cast, or my leg is still aching inside it. Put your hand on it. Feel the energy of the sun. Feel the love of God, if that's, you know, the way they work. Feel it coming through your hand and projecting like a warm feeling into your arm, and it'll help it heal. It will heal faster. It will not hurt. It will start feeling better right away. Here's another thing. Always, whether you're doing tapping, whether you're doing affirmations, whatever you're doing, your subconscious mind does not understand the word no. So use positive images. Don't say stop hurting, because all it's going to hear is hurting. Don't say no pain, because all it's going to hear is pain. You got to use the positive, warm, healed, energized, use positive words, positive images. Speaking of images, another thing you can do when you're talking about the energy body, one of the coolest tricks I saw, picture, if you will, form an image in your mind of your favorite superhero, demigod, whatever like that. Think, have him standing right beside you, and then step into him. The demonstration I saw was they had somebody trying to see how much weight they could lift, and they said, okay, now create this image of Superman, stepped into the energy body, Superman energy body, and it could pick up like 50 pounds more. You can take on these things because our mind-body reaction, we have a lot more control than we think we do. And an awful lot of these techniques have to do with stepping around our expectations, getting out of our own way, beginning to believe in the power that is in us. Because, and that's the important thing. If you, it can help to use things like herbs or crystals, because then you know you're getting the help from the plants who do want to help us, the crystals who do seem very happy to help us. There are other aspects of healing that I really wanted to, but we're getting so late. There's color therapy. The effects of different colors will activate different parts of your own chakra or enemy system. Different musical tones have effects. The vibrations affect it. So a G note is going to affect you differently than a D note. That's going to, it's their disciplines. You got to learn those. You got to try them, but you can also experiment at home. There's aromatherapy. Oh my goodness, the effects of some aromatherapy is amazing. Same time, be aware that when you are smudging or using a large amount of a burning product, you are getting particulate in the air and in your lungs that what you're looking for is the aroma. You don't need the cloud of smoke. The Anglo-Saxons called what we call smudging these days, they called it reeking. And I like that. It's like reeking. And a very big thing I think is part of the aromatherapy is scent is really closely linked to your access to your memory. So you can trigger a memory that has been lost to you for 50 years by a certain scent. If suddenly you're smelling something that you haven't smelled for 50 years, suddenly you, back in the summer of 65, you had a wonderful day or you broke your arm. That'll bring it all back. So scent is part of that. So you got to be careful with the aromatherapy. I thought it would be really wonderful. I had some great home births, and I said you could put just a little bit of the scent of amniotic fluid in, and that would bring back all the warm fuzzies from your birth experiences. And my midwife said, yeah, but a lot of people have really horrible birth experiences, and that would trigger that for them. It's like, oh, well, that's probably true. And I wanted to mention that in more traditional psychology, they talk about the inner child. You got to remember your inner child is a child. And so if you're getting geared up to be to do a big presentation at work and you don't feel like you're capable, you don't really feel that you've nailed it, you wake up in the morning with a head cold. Why? Because your inner child knows that he used to be able to get out of school and the test he wasn't ready for by getting the sniffles, and then he could stay home. Well, and so that doesn't work as an adult. Then you take your Sudafed and you take your whatever and you go to work and you have to give this presentation with the cold on top of not feeling ready for it. You have to be kind to your inner child. When your inner child is beginning to whine, you talk to them kindly. You say, what's going on? What's got you upset? What do you need? Sometimes what your inner child needs is a nap. Frequently, a cold is your body telling you that you have gone too long, you have worked too hard, and you've got to take a break. Now, if you're going to take a break, wouldn't you rather do it healthy and be able to enjoy it rather than using your downtime feeling like you're achy and can't breathe? Listen to the little signals that your body gives you so that you don't have to get sick. You can, if you are going to say your back starts hurting and you say, oh, I can't, but I still got all of those rows I have to till. And you say, okay, let's go swimming, do something you want to do. But I'm going to do 3 more rows and then then don't break that promise. Because this is one part of you, your body knows that you promise. So you gotta be honest to your body. So that is the as far as I dare go, because it's already run very late. I'm going to put these things in. I've been talking so straight out. I'm going to ask you to unmute yourselves and ask questions if you have some now.
Well, I do. I have 2 points I've been wanting to cover for a little over an hour now.
Okay.
Well, I've been trying to wait until the tide slowed down a little bit. But you
Sorry.
did come back. You did come back and touch on the same subject again. What the observation is that I remember back in the 90s, Jen and I took our Reiki attunements from Linda Goodman at Heart Song Gifts in Milford. And Linda was one of those rogue masters. And her attitude was that, and I've read up on this since then. In fact, I have a wonderful book called The Spirit of Reiki that really gets into the history and why they decided that it should cost $10,000 for a master's attunement. And it was basically this belief that Americans are materialistic. The only thing that matters to them is money. And I said, oh, completely wrong. The people who most need to learn Reiki are the ones who haven't got a dime. And so I took that to heart. But yeah, I remember her as being very proud of what she was doing. Otherwise, the question I had was listening earlier to talk about herbal remedies and homeopathic medicines and all of that. I'm trying to work on the concept that my doctors have done a brilliant job of fixing up all the things that can be fixed with medicine. And I'm in better shape that way than I've been in a long time. But I still struggle with fatigue and a somewhat down mood. And I would just as soon not take more antidepressants. So is there any thought of what would be a good approach? Because I'm overweight, I'm completely deconditioned. It's hard to do anything. And I think it's just the burden of carrying that around. Yeah, you say liver health, and my liver is not healthy. A lot of my liver is, well, they call it fibrotic. To me, that means that a lot of my liver is really high-grade masonite now. And there's also There are also cirrhosis there. So that is an issue. Anything that could strengthen the liver would be a good thing. I'm just throwing this one out to the room, really. If anybody has...
My first thought would be, my first thought would be try the box remedies, because the box remedies would probably not interfere with the drugs you might be taking already, because they're working on an energetic level.
Right,
and
as opposed
therefore
to
they
a
would be less
biochemical
likely
level.
to
Yeah.
cause,
And at this point, with as
And
many different...
depending on how that.
One of my favorite things, having had several physical things like broken bones, nerve damage, reconstruction, and yes, also liver damage from antibiotics, to take care of myself. And it's like, yes, I go, I use spell work and charging charging stones such as bloodstone for liver damage. I charge it to grab and pull that. I use quartz to rebuild the bones and the nerves.
I just clicked on that link that just got posted, and I was rather amused to see one of my favorite teas there, the Yogi Detox, which I probably ought to...
Oh, yes.
I ought to stock up on that again.
I basically go to Magic and I grab things that can help me build my immunity or siphon off. And I have had great success over the last 3 years when I damn near lost my arm to making it healthy and regaining use, regaining functionality, not losing the damn thing, which was a good...
really. Let's start by not having it fall off, you know?
Well, not have, after 6 months, 6.5 months of going, the guy fight and all the crap I went through, and you can contact me offline about what did I go through, but it was huge. I went, the guys, the up to, the optimal, the guy that did the bone doc said, oh, it looks like we're ahead of the game and you are probably going to keep your arm.
Well, that's good news.
For 6.5 months. He never mentioned it, but I knew full freaking well. Exactly where I was. I had 4 surgeries, 2 rounds of MRSA, 1 bad allergic reaction to the first anti-MRSA drug they gave me, which, by the way, happens to kill you at least as fast as it kills the MRSA.
Oh, yeah, like most chemo.
Well, you know, it's interesting because
the common side effects were, liver failure, kidney failure, heart failure, deafness, blindness, and death. DEATH. That's a common side effect. I almost went there.
I have to look at the fact that I am not as powerful a practitioner of magic as others. I
Yeah.
see.
Yeah, I'm going to actually end this because I think
Yes, we have to.
Well,
respectful-
yeah, it's time to take my pills.
Yeah,
But-
it's that
But
time.
I wanted to throw that
I'm
out.
going to end the recording.
Okay,
but-
not,
Keep-
yeah,
Those
yeah.
who can stay can still keep talking. So thank you all, and I'm going to remind you that we are going to try and have a whole bunch of healing workshops at the end during Changing Times, Changing Worlds in November from the 7th, the 7th to the 13th of November. And please come, please reserve so I'm going to stop the recording here. Thank you
Okay.
for everybody who's listening on YouTube, as well as the people who came here.
Thank you.
Yeah.